Linda, yeah, it's pretty much good news all the way through. Sleeves are as rolled up as they're going to get. This is just the casual. These are the casual rolls. So this one doesn't mean anything. Let's see who else I got out here. Hey, Tanya from Pride. Good to see you. Faith is there again. Thank you, Faith, for being regular. I'm going to leave that one alone. Thanks for the update. Happy to do it. Look, thanks so much for you guys for joining me here. We're going to probably blow through this fairly quickly. I'm almost at a state here that I think the less we talk, the better you'll get it. The bottom line is this has been a bust. Hurricane Center still hanging on to, it's almost a prayer from their standpoint that this could become a tropical storm before it makes landfall. And folks, it's not going to happen. You look at the radar imagery here, and this is showing you, yeah, there's still some energy here. Oh, and by the way, there was a little social media chatter about landfall having already occurred. This afternoon, Jared and I were sitting around looking at this, and the answer to that, number one, is no, it has not. Number two is, yes, it effectively has, if that makes sense. And the reason is you see all the energy up here with this, what some weather people would call the naked low. No rain around it whatsoever. In fact, there aren't much in the way of cloud cover. There isn't much in the way of cloud cover around it either. In fact, let me back it up here, and we'll go ahead and we'll take a quick look at the clouds, and you'll get the idea what I'm talking about. Come on. Yeah, so you see the clouds there, and we've got sort of the clouds set as translucent. There is nothing around that low. So it is an area of low pressure, but all of the energy came in earlier in the day, and now we'll go back to the radar view here. And so when people were chatting about this area right here being the center of circulation, it was the center of mid-level circulation, not at the surface, but spin in the mid-levels. And that was clearly the case. So Jared and I were even talking about it. And this afternoon I said, yeah, that's effectively the energy center, but it's not what the Hurricane Center is focusing on in terms of what might or might not become a low-level center. That's still out over the open water. All that said, just looking at that, all of us know there's really nothing much to come of it. Yeah, it's going to produce some big rains, basically from New Orleans eastward. Not great news for the folks along the Mississippi coast, but not bad news for us. Yeah, we're going to see some tropical storm force winds down in these southeastern parishes. Could even see some sustained winds sneaking up around 40 miles per hour or so briefly around New Orleans. But that is still manageable. We're not talking about the 50s and 60s that we would sort of kind of envision when we talk about tropical storms. So the core is the core story here is that all of the energy is going to stay well east of the Baton Rouge viewing area. So let's get to it. We're going to get through this, and hopefully I'll have you back in front of the TV in 15 or 20 minutes. So right now, based upon the National Hurricane Center's latest track forecast, and keep in mind the coordinates and the wind speed estimates, right now they're coming out every 3 hours. The track forecast, though, only gets updated every 6 hours. So we're not going to get another update on the track forecast until the 10 o'clock show. And I suspect at that show, you see here 10 o'clock Friday evening, and at 4 o'clock, basically their track had the, whatever the low is, making its landfall. Now, again, Hurricane Center focused on making this a tropical or at least a subtropical system. It's just not going to happen. So, but we'll have some estimate or measure of the center making landfall probably around 10 or 11. And then it pushes on through between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And just keep this track line in mind, because essentially all of the energy is going to be east of it. So we're going to be sort of somewhere in the vicinity of Houma, Thibodaux, around 1 a.m., and then it actually is going to start to even accelerate more, moving out more quickly, so that by lunchtime, it's out of Louisiana and up into Mississippi, and it moves even faster beyond that. Now, the real issue here then is not even so much a matter of how much energy it's going to deliver, but in some ways it's just also a matter of how long it's going to hang around. Here's a look at some of the winds as we get into the 8:15 hour. Yeah, winds at 37 miles per hour, gusting to 45, but keep in mind this station is about 100 feet off the ground. Here we have winds at 33 with gusts to 41. That's closer to the water level surface. And the one thing about measurements over the water, there's less friction there, so you get really maybe a true sense or a truer sense of what the winds are doing in the system. Shell Beach, 36, gusting to 48. That's pretty impressive. So here we're seeing some evidence of at least something close to tropical storm force sustained winds with definitely tropical storm force gusts. But look at the numbers dropping off as you move farther to the west. Yeah, we got some big numbers like Hammond here with sustained winds at 26 and Patterson, Morgan City at 20. But in many cases, these are kind of close to some thunderstorms. And what we're not seeing, as well as not a very organized system, is not very well organized rain bands. And that's more good news for us, because for us, the real threat, and by us I mean the Baton Rouge area, the real threat for us was going to be in the rain bands. Stronger thunderstorms embedded within those bands that produce heavy rains, gusty, potentially damaging winds, and even maybe a tropical tornado or two. Now, the tornado threat is still alive in the extreme southeastern parishes. In fact, on radar, we've seen some hints of some short-lived spin-ups. Maybe not reaching the ground, maybe only up in the clouds, but there's certainly evidence of some quick spinners down in the southeastern parishes. But for us, on the west side of that forecast track, and given that we're not seeing any kind of banding, it's just not going to be an issue. So there's the forecast track, still going with the tropical storm warning around the tidal lakes, but I think that's even being a little generous. I really don't think we're going to see winds in the 40s up north of the tidal lakes. Wind gusts in the 40s, yeah, maybe. Wind gusts in parts of Louisiana, yeah, I mean, parts of Louisiana. Parts of the Florida parishes, that's certainly possible too. But the bottom line is I'm not really worried about a real significant wind event for most of our viewing area. By the way, we told you earlier in the day, rains are going to be shifted off to the east, and the National Weather Service trimming out just about all of our viewing area out from under the flood watch. And we can already start talking about trimming out some of the southern parishes, the coastal parishes as well. Still carrying that coastal flood warning. The surge unit, the guys that do the surge estimates at the National Weather Service Hurricane Center, National Weather Service Hurricane Center, the Storm Surge Unit, they're talking about 2 to 3 foot surge from essentially Biloxi back around here to the outlet of the Atchafalaya. I think even those numbers are probably a little on the high side. Wouldn't be shocked to see 2 to 3 maybe over here at St. Bernard Parish, although thus far not seeing much of that. Down here along the coast, I don't think we're going to see 3 foot. We could see 1 to 2 foot with some pockets of 3 foot rise there. Bottom line is even the surge is certainly going to be manageable from the system. But here you have that dome, and keep in mind where we have this purple color, we're talking about a 90% chance of sustained tropical storm force winds. And I'll grant you that. As I said, New Orleans could see winds sustained in the low 40s or around 40 miles per hour or so. That's good enough to be tropical storm force. Now, what I don't buy into right now, they've got the Baton Rouge area running at about maybe a 30 to a 40% chance of those sustained winds. I think that might be a little high. Gusts, yes. If we do get a rain band, the rain band could generate a thunderstorm that might produce a little pocket of wind damage, mainly to trees and power lines, but that's about it. Bottom line is, you see, once again, there's that forecast track. and really all of the energy off to the east. And I thought I had a better animation of the radar. We're going to take another look at that here in a second. In terms of severe weather threat, it's a marginal risk, so it's a low-end threat anyway. And once again, basically east of Baton Rouge through tomorrow morning. And I think even that extent to the west is being generous. And then after we get through 7 a.m. on Saturday, from 7 a.m. Saturday into Sunday, it all shifts way off to the east. You getting the idea? Everything is going to be east of that track, because this is such a lopsided system. Latest from the GFS rain totals. Look at our entire area under an inch. No complaints about that, especially keeping in mind that, 4 days ago on Monday into Tuesday, I was worried about 5 to 10 possible. But remember, Monday into Tuesday, we had the system coming in here in southwestern Louisiana, putting us on the wet flank. And so for the past week, the storm track has just slowly but steadily crept eastward. And even today, it's pushed further eastward during the course of the day. European model, maybe a tad wetter, like a half an inch wetter. Bottom line is, again, the blues essentially indicating an inch or less for most of our viewing area. This is certainly going to be manageable. Now, tomorrow we're still expecting some rain, but it's not going to be a washout. Father's Day, still expecting some rain, but I think Father's Day afternoon may turn out to be pretty good. So Sunday looks like it's going to be a better day than what we had been thinking. And here you go. Here's what the Weather Prediction Center is saying in terms of their estimates. And you see once again, now they're a little on the wetter side, but in general, we're still talking about maybe an inch to 2 inches across most of our viewing area, and most of you staying at about an inch or less. And then anything to the west of Baton Rouge is well under an inch, even less than well under half an inch there. So the rain is not going to be the issue we had been concerned about either. Bear with me a second here, because we are going to just about wrap this up. I will stay tonight just to keep tabs on the system and at least be here for the official or the assumed landfall. But in the bigger scheme of things, this is one where you can go ahead, go on to bed tonight, relax. Chances are virtually nobody in our viewing area is going to lose any power. Chances are virtually nobody in our viewing area is going to wake up to standing water in the streets. Chances are this has been a huge bust. And in fact, it's not just chances are, this has been. So let's finish up with this. I'll take a look at some of the questions. It looks like most of you are getting, well, how about Smithdale, Mississippi? No problem. I mean, yeah, you could get some gusts into the 30s, but that's about it. And even that might be a little on the generous side. So you got no issue there. So here's what we're dealing with. A couple of things to pick up. Maybe the first thing you notice, obviously, is there's virtually nothing around the center. So it's almost impossible for this thing to get an upgrade to even a tropical depression when there's practically no clouds, clearly no rain, and actually no evidence of any kind of closed circulation. And that's the tip-off. Remember, this thing has had winds estimated, and remember, that's estimated at 45 miles per hour just about all day long. That's above the tropical storm threshold of 39 miles per hour, but there's a second requirement, a closed circulation. And the hurricane hunters kept looking and looking, and they just couldn't find a closed circulation. Without that, it is not a tropical cyclone, because in fact that's what the word cyclone means. Cycle, closed circle, counterclockwise spin, and they never could find a closed circulation. And part of the reason for this is because you see how everything is shifted off to the east and to the northeast? Fair amount of wind shear, kind of keeping the system from getting stacked near the center. And in fact, over the last 6 to 12 hours, it's really shredded this thing. Even the rain amounts are not going to come in anywhere near what we thought they were on the east side of the track. And the rains aren't really showing any kind of really organized banding. Yeah, you got a band right here, and you've got maybe evidence of a couple of bands in here, but not that sort of textbook shape that we would expect. One other thing that I think many of you are picking up on, and that is, look how clear it is on the western side of this low. Very dry air on the west side, which is also getting pulled into the system and keeping it from closing in. And if you look really closely, watch some of these showers as they wrap around past Baton Rouge and head out into this clear air. Even this little cluster here of thunderstorms just whiffs away. This little band right here just completely evaporates as it runs into the dry air. The issue was none of the models picked up on this. None of the guidance thought we would have this kind of grossly disorganized system, and so that's why the forecast is a bust. Now, truth is, the fact that the forecast is a bust shouldn't be hurting your feelings, but I do understand that for some of you, it's like, well, why do we go through this exercise of preparing for a named storm when in fact it's not going to be there? And the bottom line is, it's forecasting. It's using the tools we have to make the best guess we can. And in this case, we just completely whiffed. And it's kind of, it's like betting on the Saints, where you feel pretty good about the Saints taking on the Falcons, and then 24 hours before game time, Alvin Kamara is scratched. Well, suddenly your confidence level takes a step down. You may still think they're going to win, but you've just lost a piece of your forecast formula, if you will, that's had you convinced, had you with a high level of confidence that the Saints would win. So with that, this dry air, the wind shear, we've ended up with a near nothing. It will come in probably tonight around 10 or 11 o'clock, I'm guessing. But the hard part here is, and in fact, and I've seen this before, where the National Hurricane Center never even really declares a landfall. And that's why I was talking about earlier today. There was some stuff, some chatter in social media about it had already made landfall. In fact, it even suggested that the landfall had been at Port Fourchon and was heading up to New Orleans. And there was a mid-level spin that contained most of the energy of the system. So from an operational, from a visual standpoint, that probably was the landfall. But from a technical standpoint, the system is still out over the water. And bottom line is, it really doesn't matter because it's not even a depression. So we're going to leave it at that. And let me see if there's a couple of questions I can answer. Yeah, we're still going to get some banding. Yeah, we're going to get some rain tonight. Yeah, we'll get some rain tomorrow. But it's going to be these passing showers. Like earlier today, we had about 1/4 inch of rain here at the studio. One of those tropical showers in a rain band came and went in about 15, 20 minutes. Well, most of it. It was over in 40 minutes from start to finish. And I expect to see some of these little breakaway showers hold together and run by your neighborhood. So I'm even going to carry rain likely for Saturday and probably stick with scattered to likely showers on Sunday. But both days, they're going to be showers. They're not going to be rough. They're going to be in and out. They're going to be passing fairly quickly, and they're not enough to really make you change any of your plans. So with all that, well, Ms. Rose says we made her cancel her Juneteenth event. Now, I will tell you that I even told several baseball programs that had events scheduled today to stay with them because I knew that today wasn't going to be a bad day. So, Ms. Rose, we didn't cancel it. You did. What I told you was Saturday and Sunday were days that you wanted to be extra careful. Basically, the weekend is going to be normal. Well, not exactly. It's going to be a little more of a kind of a day where you could get multiple passing showers. And given that it's mid-late June, with highs only in the mid-upper 80s for Saturday and Sunday, the way it looks right now, it'll be actually not all that uncomfortable, but certainly not going to be what we were worried about before. So hopefully, Audrey, that helps you your question there. We are going to be okay. We're going to be more than okay. This has certainly turned out to be kind of a nothing of a storm. Yes, Linda, the memo went out earlier today. All the hurricane parties are canceled. Um, Headed to Gulfport tomorrow. You're going to drive in and out of the rain, I would say, so you might want to think about that. And it's probably going to be a little sloppy over there, especially during the first part of the day. But even along the Mississippi coast, things aren't looking anywhere near as active as they had been just 24 hours ago. Antoinette asked the all-consuming question, is weather coming to Baton Rouge, Louisiana? No, it's the Baton Rouge Desert. It does feel pretty good outside. Part of that is because we got some northeasterly flow. The wraparound flow coming in around the large-scale circulation is still keeping the humidity down a bit, although nothing like what we had yesterday. Good point there. And thanks to all of you who are mentioning that you're watching from places like Amite, Donaldsonville, Gonzales, all kinds of folks there. All right, let me head over to my page, and I'm going to probably, there's Pride gets a hello, a shout out there. Hey, look, folks, I am flattered. Those you ask them saying thanks for the update. I'm flattered y'all catching in. Roxanne says she's so confused. I don't know what to do with that, Roxanne. I don't know what you're confused about. Bottom line is things are going to be not so bad. Why is the NHC so reluctant to call it a storm still and insists it will be? Okay, well, the dark side of me says that there's money involved. But the lighter side of me says everything that the NHC was looking at said this was going to become a tropical storm. I don't want to say I had always second guessed that, but if you've been following me for the last couple of days, I've been pointing out how this low was all by itself and that all the action was separated from it. Now normally, and this is what the NHC was thinking, normally what we see is, in fact, yesterday, if you were with me, I told you, watch to see if the center gets relocated. And really they didn't so much relocate it as in just say, well, we thought it was here, now it's here. That's a relocation. But what they did do is they moved it very quickly. And many times what we will see is that as the system starts to get its act together, the surface low and the convection will start to combine. And once that happens, now you've got what you need, a low pressure center and convection tied into it, and you can get a storm blossom up very quickly. I think that's what they were after. Now, why they have hung on to that through the late afternoon and early evening, that's a good question, because frankly, this hasn't looked like it had any chance to be a tropical storm or even a tropical depression for the last several hours. Yet they kept sending the hurricane hunters out there to search for that closed circulation. One of the things I like to remind people, and this may sound kind of odd, but you have to also be thinking about what is the mission of the National Weather Service and the National Hurricane Center. When you read their mission statement, frankly, it says very little about weather. Their job, their mission, is the protection of lives and property, kind of like what you often see on the sides of law enforcement vehicles. So one other thing to take away from this is they stuck to their guns for their forecast because they were more concerned about protecting you and your property than about being right. And in our business, that really is the objective: protection and safety, not being absolutely correct. If you could trade one for the other, you would always go for the one that said nobody got hurt, rather than being able to say, well, I nailed that forecast. So it's more than just giving them the benefit of the doubt. I think the National Hurricane Center just felt like, under the circumstances, with the information they had, they wanted to stick with the tropical storm configuration, the tropical storm designation, to make sure that folks like you and people like me got that message out saying prepare for tropical weather. In the end, this thing really doesn't look like it's anything tropical. It's struggling to even look subtropical. But let's just take that to the bank and be thankful that it was a bust, and a bust in the good direction. Because there are busts in the other directions where these things just turn around and blow up into monsters in 24 or 48 hours. So let's leave it at that. No, and again, I will say that a comment here, it's not about the National Hurricane Center doesn't want to be wrong. They want to mate and stick to their mission, which is to protect people. All right, so Chevy has decided that I say bottom line too much. Well, Chevy, guess what? You're blocked. Block. Done. All right. That was easy. And that was fun, too. All right. Okay, folks. That's enough there. Most of the other comments are just, they're more just comment and thanks and hellos and hey to everybody out there. Thanks for sticking with me on this Friday evening. We did go a little longer than I thought we would. I'll have your update for you at 10 o'clock on the coordinates. I think that right about then we'll probably be looking at something that's about to make landfall officially in Terrebonne Parish, although at this stage, given its lack of organization, landfall is a moot point, frankly. The real point here is that while it's not going to be a great looking weather weekend, it's not going to be all that bad either. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you at 10. And by the way, dads, happy Father's Day.